Hello, my friends. First of all, I would like to thank Sasha Dratva and his team for the invitation to be here with you today. In this Yom HaShoah, I would like to start with the thought that it is amazing that 77 years after the end of World War II, we still have to devote efforts to fight the denial and the distortion of the Holocaust. Who could imagine that there would still be deniers even with the largely documented evidences of the genocide of the Jewish people and other minorities between 1939 and 1945? I believe that the best way to combat it will be a combination of education and legislation. Education, of course, to teach to the new generations what happened during the Second World War. One of the items of our agenda as the OAS Commissioner is to stimulate that countries in the Americas have in their national curricula classes about the Holocaust. Regarding legislation, we'll try to examine briefly the current status of the legislation in some countries and in international organizations in order to evaluate the chances of its adoption. In the first place, it must be clear that the argument according to which rules condemning Holocaust denial would not be in accordance with the European Convention on Human Rights or with the Universal Declaration has already been rejected both by the European Human Rights Commission and the European Court. At least 17 countries already have legislation against Holocaust denial, some of them criminalizing this conduct. In Austria, the country denazification legislation of 1947 was amended in 1992 to forbid the denial or minimization of the Holocaust. In Germany, the law on incitement forbids hate speech against certain groups. It is often applied to cases involving Holocaust denial. The Greek law, as the Brazilian rule does, requires that there is an intention to cause violence, incite hate, or insult a protected group in order to configure the crime. In countries of the Eastern Europe, such as Poland, Lithuania, and Hungary, legislation uses to punish both the denial of Nazi crimes and those of the communist period. In the European Union, after an agreement between the United Kingdom and the Nordic countries on one side and Germany on the other, an agreement was reached in 1996 establishing that, although the denial of the Holocaust has not been formally forbidden, a penalty of up to 3 years in prison was established to be adopted by member countries that wish to do it, for those who grossly deny or trivialize crimes of genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. In the framework of the international system, the United Nations approved, at its General Assembly in January of this year, a resolution on the denial of the Holocaust. Concluding, I remember that the IRA, in its definition of anti-Semitism, explains, "It is a certain perception of the Jews, which can be expressed as hate of the Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed at Jewish and non-Jewish individuals and or their properties, Jewish community institutions, and religious facilities." And, as you know, the definition is illustrated with a series of practical examples, such as, and I quote, "deny the fact, scope, mechanism, for example, gas chambers, or intentionality of the genocide of the Jewish people in the hands of National Socialist Germany and their supporters and accomplices during World War II, the Holocaust." For our part, in the functions that we are playing in the OAS, we have searched to extend the role of countries that adopt this definition. 4 of them already do it, and some are members of this association. In conclusion, I understand that combining the legal with the educational approach may be the proper way for us to address prejudice, discrimination, and anti Semitism, especially regarding denial and distortion of the Holocaust. After all, as James Schlesinger said, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but not to their own fact.